Hi, everybody. This is John Amplis, George Romero actor. You may know who I am. Martin and Creepshow and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and probably something else, Night Riders. Yep, that's me. And you are listening to Without Your Head.
All right, we're back here at Without Your Head. And we've got a very special guest, Adrienne Barbeau. How are you doing?
Doing well.
I almost said, how are you doing tonight? But,
I'm doing great tonight.
Yeah. We'll fool everybody. I'll let everybody know you're going to be at the Rock and Shock, and that's in Worcester, Massachusetts, at the DCU Center in the Palladium. And you go to rockandshock.com, the link's right on the website. That's this weekend. Do you enjoy doing like the conventions and meeting up with the fans and maybe some people you used to work with?
You know, I did Rock and Shock, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It was, I feel like it was one of the first conventions I ever did, and the people who run it were so lovely, Gina Migliosi and all the gang that organized that I'm looking forward especially to going back to this one. I do maybe three or 4 a year, and I do. It's a great chance to see Tom Atkins again, or George Romero, or Dee Wallace, or all my friends, and we have a fun weekend together. And over the years that I've been doing them, there are fans who come back every time, and so I feel like I've begun a relationship with some of them, and it's fun.
Yeah. Now, you played like so many different characters. Is there any one like specifically that people ask you to like sign a picture of or ask you about the most?
Oh, it all depends on their age and where they're from. A lot of people still, they want to get a poster from Cannonball Run because that's their favorite movie.
Right.
And of the horror genre, I've got a lot of Carnivale fans from, the HBO series. And everybody loves Billie in Creepshow, and Swamp Thing, and Escape, and The Fog. Those are the ones, And this year I've got my latest paranormal novel out, the sequel to Vampires of Hollywood, which I wrote 2 years ago, and this one's called Love Bites. And so I've got some copies of that with me, and I'll be signing those at Rock and Shock as well. So everybody has, they know me from something else. Now I've just been, the last 3 months I've been doing General Hospital. So I'm starting to get a lot of fans coming up and saying, oh, have you got anything from GH? Which unfortunately I don't, but they usually just take, a headshot.
Uh-huh. Now, do you think there's a crossover audience between, like, fans of horror movies and General Hospital?
And General Hospital? Yeah. Well, maybe if they like James Franco, they started watching, recently. There's more of a crossover audience. I get a lot of people, of course, who, grew up watching Maude, and now they're older and they're sitting home during the day watching General Hospital. So I get more of that crossover. But it's always a lot of people who love The Fog are soap opera watchers, and I can't really make a generalization.
Yeah, you never know what they're watching.
Yeah. And now there's so much to watch. I mean, we've got, it's impossible to see everything with all the cable stations.
Mm-hmm. Anyone ever ask you to sign anything unusual? Or a body part or anything?
Oh, well, I have had 2 fans that I can remember who one of them had my name tattooed on her back, and the other one had a little picture. That was a fellow, and that was quite unusual. And sometimes people want me to sign, would you sign my arm or something like that?
Yeah. I think that's
some
cat. Common,
there's been some Catwoman memorabilia that I had never seen until someone brought it to to a convention to sign because I was the voice of Catwoman for the animated series.
Yeah, that's cool.
But nothing. That was the most unusual, I guess, is somebody's arm.
Yeah. It was attached. It wasn't like a severed.
That was attached.
Yeah,
that one was attached. Yes.
Do you keep any of like the props from any of your movies?
I don't. I don't. I barely even have photographs. Were it not that I had been asked to do these signings, I wouldn't have even the photographs that I do have. I'm not very sentimental. I have an iron bed that I bought in St. Louis when we were filming Escape from New York. and whenever I look at it, I think, oh, I bought that in St. Louis when we were filming Escape from New York, but it's not from the movie.
Yeah.
And actually, after Carnivale went off the air, Deborah Christopherson, who played the bearded lady, went. I guess they were selling a lot of the props and everything for the series, and she went and picked up a piece that had been in my character's trailer, in Ruthie's trailer, and she brought it to me, and I've got that. I think it's shoved in the corner of my husband's office, but I'm not a collector.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Carnivale because that's actually one of my favorite shows. I have both seasons on DVD. And did you enjoy making it? Did you?
Loved it. I loved it. It was one of the highlights of my work all these years. I mean, I just loved. It was a fantastic job. I loved, being able to say the words they wrote, which were so unique and so fascinating. And I just loved the series of the whole, but I love the actors I was working with, the producers. It was just a fantastic gig.
Yeah. Were you sad to see it not go on?
Depressed. I mean, it really. We sort of knew it was coming. We didn't know when we filmed the last episode. We filmed the last episode in November, and they were not going to make the decision about picking it up or canceling it until the following May. So the producers had to write that last episode open-ended so that it, you sort of got a sense of maybe it was tied up or, they could go on. And in early May, we started to hear rumors that it wasn't going to happen, and it was very depressing.
Yeah.
It was really sad.
Yeah, I was sad, and I was on the show. But like you said, at least it did have like an ending where that could have been the ending.
Yes, and the way I try to look at it is, hey, we got 2 years. That's more than if we had never done it. So, but I think had it gone one more year, it really would have, broken out, and we would have found the crossover audience that HBO was looking for. But they just couldn't stay with it.
Did you ever have any scenes with Clancy Brown on the show?
No,
the brother?
No, I never did. I
didn't think you did.
No.
I thought he was really good on the show. I thought it was a great cast.
Yes. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Mm. Now, I also have to ask about Creepshow, because when I was growing up, that was my favorite horror movie, and not just saying this because you're on here, I actually wore out the old VHS tape, the old clamshell. I would watch it all the time, and The Crate was actually my favorite story in the movie. Was that a fun film to film?
It was great fun, mostly because of George, and because we were filming in Pittsburgh, and I love Pittsburgh, and I almost turned it down when they offered it to me because I had never met George. I didn't know his work. I was married to John Carpenter at the time, and of course John was saying, you can't turn down, a George Romero film. He is, he's brilliant. He's the master of horror and all of that. But they sent me the script, and I read it, and I thought, oh, gosh, this is so gory and violent and bloody, and, I don't think I can do this, and Tom Atkins is an old dear friend of mine, and Tom was already cast in the film, and Tom was a friend of George's. And so I called Tommy, and I said, Tommy, you're going to do this movie? They want me to do this part, but, and he said, hold on just a second.
No problem.
He said, 80, he said, you don't understand. George has a very specific style in mind of the way he's going to be filming this, and he's doing it like a comic book. It's based on the comic books, and it's going to be very, he said, you've got to do it. You've just got to do it. So on his recommendation and John's recommendation, I showed up in Pittsburgh, and I'm so glad I did. And she's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. Is it, back to Carnivale real quick, when you film a movie as opposed to a TV show, do you get more attached to the role when you're doing a TV show because it's like there's so many more episodes?
No, it doesn't depend upon the length of time. It depends upon the character.
Yeah.
I did Maude for 6 years, and Carol is still not one of my favorite characters.
Right.
Certainly not as, I didn't love doing, I loved going to work, and I loved working with my fellow actors, and I was very proud of the show. But the character herself was,
Right.
But then I turn around and I do Ruthie, and we only did 2 seasons, and they were short seasons. We only did 24 episodes, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just loved her. So it really depends on the character and not the length of time, how attached I become to them, at least.
Yeah. On Creepshow, how long did it take to do the makeup?
On Creepshow?
Yeah, for the different death scenes.
I don't think you saw me dead, did you? I don't remember.
Well, you had several death scenes in the movie when he shot you and he strangled you. And when the monster attacked you.
Yes, you got me. I don't remember. Yeah. I do. I guess the squib when Hal shot me. They just takes maybe 20 minutes or a half an hour to attach the squib. I honestly don't remember, and I don't remember the death scene at all. I'm sorry.
No problem. When you said it's based off the old DC comics, Tales from the Crypt and whatnot, or kind of inspired by, not really based on, were you ever familiar with those?
No, I'm not a comic book fan, and I'm not a horror genre fan. So, right. I haven't even, I've barely seen some of what I've done. I think there's some I've never seen, and there's others I've never seen all the way through. And I love doing them, but I'm not. I'm not a fan of watching them.
Mm-hmm. What kind of movies do you like to watch?
Action adventure. Although yesterday I just saw the Swedish release of The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, and I still can't get it out of my head. I thought it was so brilliantly directed and acted, and I love the 3 books. But I'm the first one there for the Bourne Identity or there's things like that. I love action adventure, and that's pretty much where it stops. I really don't care about going to see comedies. I'm not into whatever they call it, chick flicks, yeah. And sci-fi. I like some sci-fi, but I'm primarily a reader, which is, and I read primarily series detective novels. So when time came and I decided I was going to write, after I had written my memoir, and then I decided I was going to move into into fiction, I basically wrote a vampire detective novel, sort of a romance, sort of a comedy, but mostly it's, I set out to write a detective novel about a vampire scream queen.
And you can get those off your websites, abarbeau.com, and then you can get them off of Amazon or at your local bookstore. Can you still get the audio version of your autobiography?
Yes, you can. That's available. I believe that's available on Amazon. I'll have a couple of copies with me at Rock and Shock. But I think that even may be available on my website. But no, I know and I think it might be available on iTunes. There are worse things I could do, but it's just the audio CD is what you're asking about. And that I did the recording of that one, or the narration of that one.
Yeah.
I don't have too many people ask me about audio CDs, you know.
I'm actually a fan of the audiobook. I think they're
That's great. That's why I did it, you know. Yeah. I haven't done Love Bites yet, or Vampires of Hollywood, but we'll see. We'll see how it sells. It's getting great reviews, so, you know, there's a possibility.
Yeah. Now, you kind of explain what they're about. Do you want to tell people more like what the story's about and how the sequel picks up?
Well, yeah. You see, it was the advent of the cinema that gave vampires their true calling because they're luminescent on screen. And so it's present-day Hollywood, and most of the A-list Hollywood actors that you're watching on television and in film are, unbeknownst to you, vampires. And they are led by the leader of the Vampires of Hollywood clan, who is a movie star herself, Afsana Moore. She is a scream queen. She is the star of 17 blockbuster horror films, and a couple that just went straight to DVD. And she is also a 450-year-old Armenian vampire. And someone is killing off her Hollywood actors, her A-list clan. So in Vampires of Hollywood, which is the first novel in the series, Afsana sets out to try and find out who's killing off her A-list actors. And there is a Beverly Hills detective who is also investigating the crimes, who thinks that she might be the killer herself, and who eventually comes to realize that he joins forces with her and with some of her other vampires, Orson Welles and Mary Pickford and Rudy Valentino. And they track down the killer of the Vampires of Hollywood. Love Bites, which is the novel that just came out, which I wrote by myself. I wrote Vampires of Hollywood with a co-author, but when time came to write Love Bites, I took that on by myself. It's a standalone novel, but it is a sequel in that it picks up with Afsana and the detective about 3 weeks after the first novel ended. And there's a relationship brewing between the detective and the vampire, much to the consternation of the vampire's female assistant, who is also her lover. And they're on the lam from, there's a pack of werewolves that are chasing them. So it's all sort of humorous, inside Hollywood, romantic vampire detectives.
Yeah. Sounds...
And I had no idea when I wrote it how it was going to be received, and I have been so excited and happy and pleased to read that, I'm getting these great reviews for this romance, paranormal, romantic comedy vampire novel.
Yeah. Now, did you base the character off anybody?
Oh, well, Afsana and I have a lot in common, and actually Tommy Atkins, who I mentioned earlier, who, I co-starred with in The Fog, and he was in Escape from New York, he was in Creepshow, he was in Two Evil Eyes. Tom and I have done a lot of work together. Your audience would also know him from Lethal Weapon, and, he's done 1,000 different things.
Yeah, he's been
but I've got Tommy in Love Bites as himself. I've got Tommy's in there as a character because he's such a great guy and he's such a great character to begin with. I just, I called him up and said, "Listen, do you mind if I write you into my novel?" And so there's some other people you might recognize, and then there's some people who are based on, there's some stories based on industry stories that I've been privy to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it's just fun. It's a good beach read.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you think vampires have kind of made a comeback the last few years?
Well, I think because the teenagers all, latched on to Twilight.
Yeah.
And that was really the beginning of it. Fortunately, we had written Vampires of Hollywood before Twilight was released, and then, the wave just took off from there. The reason I wrote a female vampire, is because it gave me the opportunity to create the type of character that I'm known for all of my films, a strong, take no prisoners, kick-ass woman. And I think the teenagers, especially the teenage girls, related to that character, related to those characters in Twilight, probably because they could read about romance, and yet it was still a young adult novel. They weren't, I think they all responded to the romance and to the empowerment of it. More than that, I don't know. I'm just glad it happened when it happened.
Exactly. And again, I'll put the link right on the website. That's abarbeau.com.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah. I actually saw an interview with you where you talked about the fog in the fog and how, they had to make it and they were pumping in all the rooms.
Yeah, yeah. In my memoir, there were things I could do. There's a whole chapter in there about making the fog, and the scene, I think what you're talking about is the scene where I was on the lighthouse and the ghost is chasing me, and then something happens, in another scene simultaneously. So suddenly, Deus ex machina, the ghost disappears. And in those days, the fog that we used, nobody, there was no CGI. They were using actual fog use, which was made out of kerosene and oil or something. It was god awful, whatever it was. It was filthy and it was smelly and it was greasy, and we hated getting into it. But and all they could do with it was blow it into the scene. They didn't have any way to evacuate it, And so when time came to film the scene where I am surrounded by fog and the ghost is chasing me up to the top of the lighthouse, and then the ghost disappears and the fog disappears, John came to me and he said, "Look, we have to shoot this in reverse. So you're going to have to act the scene in reverse. We've got to shoot it with you, bereft of fog." And acting relieved and perplexed that the ghost has disappeared. Then we put the ghost in there and the fog in there, and you have to, act backwards. And then I guess what they did, I don't really understand the technical aspect of it, but I think he said they would then develop the film upside down or backwards or flipped over or something, and, it would look as though it started at the beginning with the fog coming in and then the fog went out.
Mm-hmm. Now, even though, the fog was, you said wasn't fun to work with, did it help you get into the role at all? It's like you really don't like this fog?
Let's see. I think I probably worked off of the ghost more than anything in that scene. In the scenes where I was in the lighthouse and I see the fog in the distance, of course I'm not seeing anything. So, I was just making it up.
Yeah. Well, we asked a lot of the people, do you prefer CGI or practical effects?
I haven't had a lot of experience with CGI. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not even sure what it is, to tell you the truth.
Right.
But I guess that's where they put it all in after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of...
Some people prefer the practical effects. They say it's easier to get into the role, and some.
I would think it would be. I would think it would be. I can't think of anything that I've done. I'd have to go back and think about some of the things that I've done most recently, and if there was any CGI. The last horror film I did, which is going to be screening at Rock and Shock, was Alice Jacobs is Dead, which is a it's just a 20-minute film. It was my first zombie movie, my first opportunity to play a zombie. But that was all. I was eating the guts and eating the meat, and there was no CGI in that.
Yeah.
And,
I'll be looking forward to seeing that.
it's very good. It's really good. I think the young director, this was just his second project, and I think he did a fantastic job. In fact, it won I think it won the best horror film of the 2009 Comic-Con in San Diego.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's been making the rounds of the festivals, and I think now it's even available online. Mm-hmm. Because it's only 20 minutes. He hasn't gotten a theatrical release yet, but and I think they're here in LA at the LA Scarefest, or there's some horror festival here this weekend. They're going to be showing it as well. But I think the director just did a fantastic job. A fellow named Alex Horowitz.
Cool. Now you worked with some of the legendary horror directors, and now younger director. Have you ever thought about wanting to direct a movie yourself?
Never, not at all. It's something I have absolutely no feeling for. That's why I ended up writing novels. People and I don't have any feeling for screenwriting either. But no, not at all. I could probably direct actors on stage, and I can certainly know, what is needed to be said to get the performance that a director would want. But in terms of the cameras and seeing things visually, it's not me.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why they never put out a special edition of Creepshow on DVD? Because the second one they did, and the original one, it's on Blu-ray and DVD, but there's no commentaries, no special features, pretty much just the basic movie.
I don't have a clue. I didn't even know there wasn't one.
Yeah.
I don't know. But George is going to be at Rock and Shock this weekend. Yep. I'm sure he knows. You can ask him.
Yeah. He's probably not happy about it, because it's one of his more famous movies. We got a few people sent in a couple emails here. I'm going to ask you them real quick. Fran wants to know, how was it working with Bea Arthur, and was she so funny in real life as she was on the screen?
Yes, she was wonderful, and I write a lot about it in my memoir. She was just, in the first place, she was the most giving actor you could ever want to work with, and the most professional, and just a wonderful, a great lady. And I didn't really appreciate it until I got off the show and I was doing other things, and I realized that, there were actors who didn't even want to be bothered rehearsing, or there were actors who didn't introduce themselves to you when you walked on the set. And Bea was just the ultimate in terms of her, her talent, certainly, but also just in the way she comported herself in the room. Since I've been doing General Hospital, and I went in as I didn't know anybody on the set, and I really came to appreciate how, when we were doing Maude, if we had a new actor come in, even if he was just there to do under 5 lines, Bea was the first one who'd jump up from the rehearsal table and go over and introduce herself and bring the actor over and say, "This is so-and-so, and he's going to be playing such and such a part." And she was just a great lady.
Mm. Is that something you did later on in your career?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Some of it may be that everybody in the Maude cast came from the New York theater. I had just finished doing Grease on Broadway, and I started out as a musical comedy, stage performer, and Bea and Conrad and Bill Macy and Rue, we were all, and Esther Roll, we were all from the New York theater. That's how Norman liked to cast, Norman Lear. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you can grow up and begin your career in the theater without learning to be professional.
Yeah.
You know, and I find, you know, sometimes we end up with actors in television and film who have come a different route. Maybe they were, you know, maybe they were celebrities first and then they became actors or whatever, and you know, or they're. I mean, I have worked with actors who, you know, just didn't show up to rehearse because.
You got any names for us? Or
no, I'm not going to give you any names.
Right.
But I did find it amazing and astonishing, you know.
Yeah. George Rushton from England wants to know your character, Ruthie in Carnivale. How much of that, the character itself, was like written, and how much did you add to it?
Well, we pretty much, I mean, the words they wrote for us were, you know, they were right on the money. So we pretty much stayed with those words. There wasn't a lot of...
I think you probably meant more like how you played the character, I would think.
You know, the original character was described as a wizened, I think she was maybe older than I was. I can't remember, but she wasn't. I don't think until they hired me did they consider that she might have a sexuality about her. And so I think, you know, maybe I brought that to the role, and then, you know, the dancing and all of that. I think that probably came, you know, as an exchange between the writers and the actor. That's the best I can answer.
That's a good answer. I'll ask one more here. Charles Oakley wants to know, would you ever do another film with John Carpenter?
Oh, yes. I love John, and he's a brilliant director, and I loved working with him. I'd, you know, in a minute.
Now, I know your son does music now.
My son is a brilliant composer whose music can be heard on MySpace, you know, myspace.com/Cody Carpenter. I think he may also be on iTunes. I'm not sure. He scored 2 of his dad's films for Showtime, the Masters of Horror sequences, and he scored several other scenes in others of John's films. But he is also, he speaks fluent Japanese, reads and writes Japanese, and loves living in Japan. So Cody is now living in Tokyo, and he is not. I mean, he is pursuing his music career as much as possible while he's living in Tokyo. But basically, he's teaching English over there because that's the job that he could get. You know, where he could get a work visa, because he really he wants to live in Japan. I think he should be scoring video games. That's really where his talent shines. But he's not pursuing it, you know, hopefully somebody is going to pursue him. He's not pursuing it simply because he wants to be in Japan, and he's got to teach in order to be in Japan.
Mm-hmm. The first one there from the Master Horrors was Cigarette Burns. That was, I think that was the best episode of the whole run of the show.
Yeah, I never. I listened to the music, but I never. I didn't see the series. Well, but I'm hoping someday he will come back here and continue to, pursue his composing career if he can't get it going over there. But
well, let everybody know Friday. You're going to be there all 3 days with Rock and Shock?
Yes.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Worcester, Massachusetts, and you go to rockandshock.com to get all your ticket information. There's going to be a lot of people there, not just the actors, but there's also they have music there. That's the shock part, or the rock part of the Rock and Shock.
Yes.
So it's a good time, and it's in my home state here in Massachusetts on the Cape Cod. So check the link and get your tickets and tell them that I sent you. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No,
I envy you being in Cape Cod, I've got to say. We have relatives there. My brother-in-law's cousin has, I think it's a fairly well-known, oh God, I can't even begin to describe it. I have to ask Billie. I think he sells hot dogs or something on the beach in a banana. I don't know. It's some weird thing. I mean, he's also he has a business there and other things, but I think he's sort of well known right there on Cape Cod during the summer at least.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Another Van Zandt. Oh no, his last name is Lanto, but I'll have to find out.
Yeah, and you can call us back and we can get all the information.
I'll let you know. Okay. Okay.
Hey, this is David Naughton, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.